Welcome, everybody, to Write Better Together. I'm Jon Meyers. Hey, look, everybody, it's Emily Brooks.
You left me sitting in the room by myself, and listeners are like, why is the music still playing? Who
I
is
heard,
that?
I heard the music.
Who am I even looking at right
I'm
now?
running a little late today.
This
So,
person who's talking to me is
what are we
not
talking about
wearing.
today? Do we have some kind of quite the list or something?
We do have quite the list, but
Oh,
are we going to address what just
address what?
happened?
What are you talking about?
I've never seen this person in anything other than black, and I'm very disoriented.
What?
All
Why don't you tell the people of quite the list?
right, we have quite the list. We are going to be talking with Austin Francis
Oh,
about screenwriting and networking.
is he out in the wild? Are we talking to him outside somewhere?
He's going to be in his car
Oh, okay.
because we record during the day and a lot of people have to record in their car. That's fine. Um,
We're like
we,
Seinfeld with comedians in cars getting coffee. He
yes.
didn't. He didn't have any coffee though. All right,
No,
back to the
we're
list.
gonna, he's gonna give you all a call to action. But
Mm.
before our conversation, we're gonna talk about listener responses.
Oh,
And then after our conversation, we're gonna have Hey Jon Meyers segment where I teach Jon Meyers something. And then we're gonna play a
wow.
silly game.
Wow. That's a lot.
It is a lot. We
So did you get
really,
out of your bubble this week?
yeah.
Why are you acting so weird?
I'm just disoriented by this whole
This
opening
is
that happened.
like I think this is episode, I don't know, 25 or 28 or something. You should be used to how this show starts. I don't know what your
But
problem
it
is.
didn't start the normal way. You disappeared and then you came back in different clothes.
Different clothes? What are you talking about?
Maybe my eyes aren't working very well, but it looks like you're wearing some kind of gingham
Oh.
gray and white shirt. It
Oh. First of
actually
all,
looks good on you. I think the color works on you.
it's black. It is not gray.
Oh, it's
Black and
black.
white.
Okay.
But I don't know. Tell me about how you got out of your bubble. Maybe the shirt will come up later. I don't know. I don't know why you're
I
making a big
went
deal about it.
I went kayaking with friends, and
Oh,
I have a lot of friends who are teachers. And
yes.
so a lot of the times it sometimes feels like once school starts, like summer's over, no more fun, no more going out kayaking. But we did it. And actually, we did it early in the morning and it was really cool. And we did get rained on. We had to run to we had to row really quickly to shore because my friends were in uh, they were in a metal canoe and we saw lightning. So we were like racing across the lake to get to shore so they wouldn't get struck by lightning, but we were fine. And it was really fun and a good reminder that I can do things in cool weather. Because if you know anything about me, you know that I'm a summer girl. It could be summer all the time and I would be happy. Also, we saw a bald eagle.
Oh,
And this isn't a Hey Jon Meyers, but bald
was it
eagles
in
are
a canoe?
more no. But they're a lot more common now. Growing up, we never saw bald eagles here. We didn't see very many herons. We didn't see ospreys ever, unless we were in Florida. Now we see them everywhere. The ospreys were everywhere. I see a bald eagle now several times a year because their habitat has been restored, and there's been a lot of people advocating for them, and so I get to see bald eagles, which is great. I don't have to go to Florida to see them anymore.
What noise do they make?
Don't make me do it.
Do one with an English accent.
They make a really high pitched screeching sound.
Do all birds have specific, like, you know how we've talked about owls have different drink your tea. Who's
Cooks for
cooking your
you.
dinner or whatever?
Yeah.
Uh, is it always called a hoot when it's an owl? And is it always called
No,
a caw when it's a crow? Like, is it always a specific
they do tend to use specific. This isn't Hey Jon Meyers. What are you doing? They do have specific words for each one. like some owls screech, they don't hoot. And I think sometimes the phrasing has to do with the intent. Like if it's a call, then they might be a mating call, or it might be like a territorial call. So,
Are you saying a screech owl might screech? Or if
oh
you tell me a
yes.
screech owl hoots, then
No, I'm
I'm
pretty sure
leaving
they
the episode.
screech.
All right.
The classic hooting owl is the barred owl.
Oh, the who's gonna cook my dinner one.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Hey,
Okay.
remind me to use this as a segue later.
Okay.
It might
At what
matter
point?
after our conversation with Austin.
Okay.
How did you get out of your bubble?
I went and bought a new shirt. But it is not this shirt. I don't know why. So there's a learning point to this, a learning objective to
Okay.
this story. But and I did go buy a new shirt. Um, so guess how old this shirt is? How old would you guess?
Ooh. I'm gonna go buy the oldest shirt in my closet, which is probably like what, 6 years? 6 years.
No, this shirt is much older.
Oh,
This shirt is as old as we are.
it's 30
Um,
years old?
I don't know how old we are, but yeah, this shirt is probably 34 years old, maybe. Um,
What?
and it's still in style, don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so um, in a previous life, I was the social media person for a commercial real estate firm in Cincinnati, and we were on, I don't even remember, the 30th floor of one of those big skyscrapers when you drive through the middle of Cincinnati.
Mhm.
I could point at where my office was. And um, everyone there was under 30. They were all men except for one female, and they were all millionaires. And um, they all lived it. They didn't know a life without The Simpsons, right? When they were born, The Simpsons existed. So that was interesting. I only work standing up, as you know, I only type standing up. And so when I decided to take them on as a client, that was the big obstacle. Where are we going to put this guy's stand-up desk, right? Because I'm not sitting down. And I also did a lot of research for them. So it was I did a newsletter, I did their social media, and I did a lot of property research. And so the place they found for my stand-up area was there was a window off to this side, so that was cool because I could look down there. We also had we always had a big debate of like if there were a fire, what's the escape plan? And the guy who wound up being my client, he didn't know this till I asked that question. He didn't know he was in charge of the escape plan. And he didn't know what it was. And I'm
Oh,
like, well, there's
no.
one woman here, so you would have to help her out. Like, I think we could jump out a 30 floor window and still survive. I don't think I don't think we could do it without breaking things, but it's better than being dead. And people fall that far, like fall on a car or something. And they said I was watching too many movies. Anyway, um,
The general rule is that in a movie, if you fall in a car, you're fine.
yeah, that was my argument. I'm like, you'd break something, but you wouldn't be dead, and you
Yeah.
couldn't. If the stairwell was blocked, you wouldn't have any choice. Anyway, so I go into work one day with this shirt on, this exact
Oh.
shirt, and oh, I forgot to say, their offices were glass, like
Oh.
the Apple store. They were all in glass cubicle. Not they weren't cubicles; they were nice offices, but the walls were made out of glass. The only place I could have a stand-up desk was right outside his, so he could always see like me. And so I come in to work one day and with this shirt on, and he had the exact same shirt on. And he was a really funny guy, as was I. And so everyone made fun of us all day, and we were like, "No, we did it on purpose. We were twinsies." And like we just went into it. And then at the end of the day, he called me into his office and he goes, I can't let this go by. First of all, pick a day and I will never wear the shirt on that day. And I'm like, okay, I'll only wear the shirt on Fridays. And so, and I didn't work there because he was a client. I didn't work there all the time anyway. And, but so just don't wear it on Fridays and you'll be safe. And he's like, but I have to ask you, how can you afford a $600 shirt? And he was like almost he was a super nice guy, but he's like almost accusing, like, what are you doing on the side that you can afford a $600 shirt? And my response was, you paid $600 for that shirt? And he goes, no, they were on sale. I got 2 for $1,000. And he was dead serious.
Oh my
And
goodness.
and and I'm like, oh my gosh. And they were identical. I'm gonna hold this up to the camera really close. Like, it's not just gingham. See that little thin black line in the middle
Yeah.
of the white?
Yeah.
It was even that. Like, the fabric was identical. So I'm going to ask you, because the story has a point. So I'm going to ask you what I asked my students, because my students are used to seeing me wear black all the time, and then I'll show up like in week 10 with this shirt on, and they'll be
Yeah.
like, "What? Who are you?" All the same things that you said. Guess. So then we play guess how much I paid for the shirt, and because obviously I did not pay $600 for the shirt. So what would you guess, knowing that it was before The Simpsons existed?
Right. So if you said it's a 30-year-old shirt, that's going to make a difference in the price, right? Because nowadays I would say
Correct.
like 60 or something. I'm going to say 50.
Well, you would be wrong. Um, I will tell you that I bought it at Kohl's. I would also tell you that I bought it off the clearance rack at Kohl's.
So am I hot or cold?
The full price was $69 even back
Okay.
then.
Okay.
So
So I was
what would you
actually pretty close on the
correct?
okay.
So, but what would you guess that I would pay for it? Because I wouldn't even back then. I would not pay $69 for a shirt.
30.
Lower,
25.
lower,
19.
lower,
15.
lower,
10.
lower.
Is this our game today?
No,
7.99.
lower.
Oh my word. $5.
$6. Because it was like on the clearance rack, and then I went like at Moonlight Madness when it was like 90% off the stuff on the clearance rack. And so it was $6 and some change. And so I was wearing a $600 shirt that I paid $6 for, and he got mad. Like, he was like, you can't even tell the difference. And his was tailor made. And I actually saw the woman who would come in and measure them and make their suits. Their suits were at the time $5,000 suits and stuff. And but it was exact down to the
Oh
little
my
bit of fabric.
word.
When I had my students guess, some would guess like you did, $69 or whatever. And and then others would be like, oh, he's too cheap. He wouldn't pay over $5. I'm like, well, thank you. Thanks a lot, you people. So the point is, in a research class, like an English 300 or whatever, that the tailor is clearly an expert, right?
Mhm.
And but it was the exact same shirt for $600 or $6. And so if the tailor is the expert, and we require our students, and this came up when we were researching our book. What's our book called?
Right anyway.
Giving yourself permission to write no matter what. That when we would look up things, when the citations for things, there were some sources that were just sources, and there were some sources that were academic sources. And there's a higher value in academia placed to academic sources.
Mm.
I would require them because my bosses would require them, but the academic sources are not always the most accurate or the most
Mhm.
functional or have the most, like, you can study what happened at the Titanic, but a first person account who was on the Titanic, that's more
Yeah.
valuable to the reader than the academic study. And
Yeah.
so that criteria is hooey. Except not in science, if you're like doing medicine science and stuff. But first person accounts, just like this story, are often more valuable than the academic study. A button to put on this story, and then I'll let you respond to it. So that happened. We never wore the shirts the same day ever since then. And then opening day for Cincinnati Reds happened. So whatever, 6 months later, March or whatever, whenever opening day is. And so because this was an office full of men, a bunch of them during lunch went down to the game and on opening day, and they came back with they're like, hey, look at this. I got the new, I don't know what year it was, the year 2024 t-shirt, the new edition of the Cincinnati Reds t-shirt this year, whatever year it was. And then my client would say, well, what'd you pay for it? And they'd be like, oh, it was on sale. I paid $24 for it. And he goes, Jon Meyers would have paid $6. Like 6 months later, like it's still dug at him, dug in his craw that I got my shirt for $6. And there you go. We have a valuable lesson. And what do you want to say to all that?
So, because I'm actively teaching classes where I have students get scholarly sources, but sometimes based on the topics they choose, I say, you're not going to be able to find scholarly sources on this because it's so specific. Like maybe it's a local issue, or something that's really only an internet thing, like a internet trend or something where people are talking about it on Reddit, and so it really
Yeah, I'm
depends
thinking
on.
of like internet vocabulary stuff. The
Yeah.
studies are 10 years old at this point.
And that's another thing, is the age of the studies. And to be honest, some studies are also very biased, and you have to really dig into those too, because they may not be completely reliable. And so, yeah, it's a skill for sure, finding those. I have learned that a lot of sources are what, I'm not going to get into that.
Oh. Bought and paid for by big academia, by big source.
Well, what I was going to say is that if you're looking up something, like I've looked up things before where I find the same answer on like a billion websites and it's said the exact same way, but then when I look at the actual study where that originated, it didn't actually say that, or it's outdated, or it was misinterpreted, and you just can't believe everything you read on the internet.
Or they attribute it to C.S. Lewis and it was really T.S. Eliot.
Oh, all the
All the
time, or
time.
it was Taylor Swift. Like,
Yep.
yep.
Yep. All right, there you go.
So we have listener responses, or no?
Oh, we better have one.
Well, what we have, as of today, at the date of recording, our book, Write Anyway, Giving Yourself Permission to Write, no matter what, is available on Amazon.
Oh my goodness. And are we going to talk about how our book got out of the bubble?
It is so out of its bubble.
Before you tell this the thing, so I stayed up all night, and because I wanted to see who the first sale of the book.
Yeah.
Which happened at 2:48 in the morning here, which was 7 hours later in France. The first copy of our book sold in France to author Rachel Caldecott, who we've talked about before on the podcast. And so yeah, it's already selling like
and did you
hotcakes
see
overseas.
she already has her printed copy?
Yeah,
She
we are the
shared a picture
number
of it.
one. We're the number one book in France at 2:48 in the morning with a blue and yellow cover. There you go.
There you go. Well, if you don't have the book yet, then you may not have seen the wonderful, wonderful quote that we have from David Bell on it. We shared it on social media, but it's just so good that we want to share it.
New York Times
New
bestseller,
York
David
Times
Bell?
bestseller, David Bell,
Oh my goodness.
author of Storm Warning and She's Gone and lots of other thrillers.
Oh my
Definitely check
gosh.
out his work. We'll put his stuff in the show notes. He says that Write Anyway is a must read for writers at any stage of their careers. This is my favorite part. This book is gentle, informative, encouraging, and inspirational. Don't miss it.
We're gentle.
Gentle. I love that. I love that he called the book gentle.
So he said we're gentle. David Hal Chester said we're breezy.
Yeah,
And
breezy. I love it.
and Lynetta Smith said we were practical.
Yeah.
That's us. Gentle, breezy, and practical.
It just makes me so happy. I'm so grateful for them for sharing those quotes. Our book is we will have a link to the book in our show notes.
Yes.
We will also have a link to a sample in our show notes in case you want to read a sample first.
Oh.
What am I forgetting?
I don't think anything. I think now it's time to go to the Austin show.
All right, it is time to go to the Austin show.
We're not going to Austin, the state, or the state. Austin in the state of Texas.
Yep. Here's our conversation with Austin Francis.
And we're back. Hey, I'm still Jon Meyers. Look, everybody, it's Emily Brooks.
Hey again, Jon Meyers. And hey, look, everybody, it's Austin Francis.
Oh, my goodness.
Hey, everybody.
He's on his way to Target, if it looks like.
We haven't,
Podcasting while driving.
And our whole like conversation leading up to this, we didn't even like address the fact that like you're in your car and we don't know where you are.
Yeah. Hotspots are an amazing thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He's driving back as we speak in a driverless car.
Yes.
Austin, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so I am Austin Francis, aka known as Franchise to
Yes.
friends. Yes. I am 32 years old, living in Nashville, Tennessee. I am a screenwriter among 3 to 4 other jobs that I have at the moment. I've currently written 8 scripts. 2 writers I've met along my journey that wrote Dallas Buyers Club and Deadpool, Deadpool 2, and Deadpool and Wolverine. Have read some of my work, got good feedback from them. And yeah, I'm now in the process of getting one of my 8 completed scripts sold.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so the reason why I wanted to have Austin / Franchise on is because so we go to church together. So we talk a lot about writing and you always have something going on. Like you're always at an event or writing a script or pitching a script. And so I wanted to have you on just to talk about the life of a screenwriter and then also all this networking that you have been doing. So one of the questions that I have is, so you're always going to these events, going to these conferences, and how do you choose which ones to go to, and how do you, or how many to go to in a year, and which ones are going to be the most worthwhile to you?
Yeah. So I do a little bit of networking ones that have more actors, actresses, singers from said decade or ones that are currently active on the said network right now. So that's the one I've done the most of. But to answer your question, Emily, I choose them. I'm going to go with the ones that I've already done already. So the Hallmark Christmas movie cons or the 90s cons. I do those based on mainly location and who will be attending said event. So yes, and so I've been going now for, I think the first one I did was December 2021, so we're coming up on 3 years. I've definitely taken a break between then, and the next one I've got coming up is going to be in September, around your birthday. Happy early birthday, by the way, in Daytona Beach, Florida. Yeah.
And
I
which
wish
one
I
are
would
you?
be at the beach on my birthday.
Right? Yeah.
Seriously. And so you just came back from one.
Correct.
And so tell us how that one went.
Yeah, that was pretty exciting, and I felt that I was pretty prepared for the most part. There were obviously some things that I had not anticipated on, but it was all good stuff. It's just beginner's luck and, getting metaphorically your feet wet, that sort of thing. 3 companies really stood out. One of them I actually just emailed my script to this past week, and the other 2 I'm going to, instead of following up back to back to back, my plan is to do about once a week. That way I can keep track of when I reached out to them, and I feel it's best to do my follow-ups that way.
So how many different projects?
Mm-hmm.
And how did you pick which or did you pitch all 3, or did you pitch one primarily and had 2 more in your back pocket? How did that work?
So that was the original goal, John, was to look at what these production companies have produced in the past and see what of my 3 scripts, which one would best resonate with them. And then as time got closer, I thought, you know what? Let's just do all 3. Just build our conversation from there and continue that. So I had 2 thrillers. One's a mystery suspense thriller, one's a horror thriller. Emily has read one of them. And the third one was a dramedy centered around a family here in Nashville, Tennessee.
How many times were you asked, why you, why now? Why are you the one to tell this story in 2024?
I'm going to have to say, I think I'm going to have to say 0. That might be a shocker.
Oh my goodness.
I know. The questions I remember, so they'd say, tell me more about this. So that was a common one was, can you tell me more about this?
And how many of you were there? How many attendees were there?
Including writers, I would say right at 200, but between 150 to 200.
Okay, so you said that there was a bit of a learning curve, and so I'm curious what advice you would give to people going into that situation for the first time. So how do you prepare the pitch itself? We've talked a bit about pitching on the podcast, but what's your process for that?
Mm-hmm. So I will generally already have a log line in place. So I will recite that by heart, which is generally about a sentence or 2 long. And then I'll also have my phone with me, and I'll pull up my stopwatch, and I'll talk about the film a little bit, the characters and whatnot. And if I find myself taking long pauses or saying repeatedly, then I just kind of stop and start back over, and I critique where I've been, and I'm going, okay, the beginning started off well. The next part was fairly decent. This part you took a little bit long, so we need to fill that space in with words about the character, the plot, and basically kind of do that half a dozen times, if that. And generally, my finished pitch is pretty good. I would rate it probably about a B+, A-. There's always room for improvement. Nothing's going to be 100% perfect, but learn to not always have the answers, but be as prepared as you can for any kind of situation.
Can you do one to us?
Sure.
Can you pitch us right now?
I can.
Yeah.
So we'll pretend I've got my 3 here. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey John. Hey Emily. I'm Austin Francis. Nice to meet you. Yeah. So these are my 3 scripts that I have with me today. The first one here: a man and his fiance receive a visit from his supposedly dead ex-wife and find themselves involved in murder and blackmail. Old school pitch, I'll say Cary Grant's My Favorite Wife meets Alfred Hitchcock's Rebecca. Modern pitch, Gone Girl meets Girl on the Train. Mystery suspense thriller. Second one I have is Enticement. 4 actors receive the role of a lifetime and find themselves being stalked by an unknown assailant. Horror thriller. And last but certainly not least, Thicker Than Water. A 30-something-year-old guy finds his life kind of turned upside down when his estranged father comes back into the picture after a 20-year hiatus. Drama, comedy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I love that you had comp titles too, the traditional comp titles and the modern comp titles.
Thank you. Yeah, for the other 2, that was one, when you were asking just a minute ago, is there anything I wish I would have done a little bit differently? Maybe do a little bit more research on that, but some of the drama films and some of the horror thriller films I thought of just I didn't feel it quite met what I'd written, so I didn't feel it was a very accurate comparison. So that's why there weren't comps for those like there were with Crosscut, and just
I've had that same problem where, and sometimes I feel like I've forced the comp titles into the pitch, and then they don't work, or an agent will ask me like, so why did you choose these? And I was just like, well, I didn't know what to do. And so, yeah. I get that. Sometimes it's almost better to leave them out, at least in my experience, but I know that they are super helpful.
So I'm still Mr. Producer. I don't know why you guys are having this conversation in the middle of this young man's pitch. It makes no sense to me. So what'd you say your name was? Franchise? Austin what?
Austin
All right.
Franchise Francis. Yeah.
Tell me why you're the one to tell this story in 2024, franchise Austin.
Because it's a story that I feel hasn't been told in a while, and in this era we've been in at least the last 12 to 15 years with a plethora of remakes, my philosophy has been for a while, if we're going to remake something that wasn't quite as good the first go round, maybe it was off with casting or script, something of that nature, and if you see the potential to go back and make something better, do it. The ones that are already a classics in themselves, in my opinion, need to be left alone.
Well, everyone in this room made the money that we made making those reboots that you hate.
I didn't say I didn't hate.
The one I just finished made us the money that is allowing me to be here to listen to your pitch.
Yes, time well spent.
Of these three, which is the story that you want to tell right now?
2 months ago, I would have said Crosscut Now. Honestly, I'm probably going to go with my horror thriller Enticement because that got overall, the two of them gravitated more towards that, and I think I may have seen more potential in it than I originally did. So I would have to say Enticement Now.
Do you know why they Do you know why my peers gravitated to that?
I would say one thing that pops into my head, John, I would say because it's a horror thriller, and from a financial aspect, horror thriller is generally not as expensive to make.
So what budget do you see for it?
I think we could film this $1 to $3 million, if that. Which, to our viewers, that's still a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, but for a film production overall in this day and age in 2024, that is still considered relatively cheap.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting that you say this is reminding me a little bit of our conversation with Paul Gay, because he also said that horror was like a good entry point, if I'm remembering correctly.
Horror and low budget. Low budget's under 5 million.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
under 5 million.
Yeah,
gotcha. That's crazy that 5 million.
And today
is low.
in 2024, it's 1.8 million. It's under 2 million, but no, traditionally it's been under 5 million.
Yeah. I'm not the screenwriter, so all this stuff, this kind of stuff is completely fascinating and new to me. So,
I want to go back to the drama. What do you think the budget for that one would be? How many people are in it?
Including
how many speaking parts?
I would including minor characters. I would say 8 to 10, including minor supporting roles.
You've pitched it here, but has anyone asked for it yet?
Not yet. Well, the rep, that was the one he gravitated towards of my three as well.
Okay, now I'm going back. Now I'm Jon Meyers now. Does producer Emily want to ask any questions?
No, go for it.
Tell me about the interaction that you had outside of the ballroom.
Just meeting other writers? Yeah.
No. You said one of the producer connections you made was outside of the conference itself.
Yes. So, yes, two of the other reps. One, I'm blanking on the name of his production company, but his name was Lorenzo. Nice guy. We got to chatting, and so we were at this mixer that we were at, it was, like open bar, not like charcuterie board type food. So, a couple of, cheese, bread, crackers, that sort of thing. And I was in a corner in the back talking with some other writers, which this gentleman, myself, and two other writers, we were in the back part of the rooftop area just having a conversation, and then that's when Lorenzo came over and just kind of chimed in and introduced himself. And after we had chatted for a few minutes, I gave him my business card, and that was essentially our conversation. I'd seen him once or twice in passing later that night and just kind of waved by, nice to meet you, but that was pretty much it.
And then there was another one like that, another chance encounter.
Yes, his name was Jared, and we got to chatting for a little bit. Found out he's from Knoxville, but now lives in Los Angeles, but is back in Nashville periodically throughout the year. And he told me what area he's generally in, and I thought, yep, that's not far from me. And saw him.
And he's had Austin sightings in the wild.
Yes.
And he's like, I was
Yeah.
driving down Broadway and I saw you with your gym bag walking down the sidewalk.
Yes.
Yeah, we should say, because this was from a conversation we had before we started recording. But we've also mentioned it in another episode, I think, is
You have.
the Austin sightings in the wild is when my husband and I are driving and we just see Austin crossing the street with his gym bag.
Handing out business cards.
Yeah, take it. Yeah. Hey.
All right, continue with your story.
Yes.
The hustle and the grind is a real thing. Yes. And yes, so Jared I'd seen, like I said, that Friday when we started, and then when we wrapped up that following Sunday, so 2 days later, ran into him again, and again just had a good conversation.
You know, having a business card, it seems like, well, duh, but a lot of people don't. When you go to a writing conference and you're like, oh, I would have connected with this person if they had been able to give me a business card. So it's a really good thing to prepare.
1,000%.
And to have links and things like that on it.
Yes, 1,000%. There was, now that I'm thinking about it, there was one where I kind of wish I would have had business cards. So still the same weekend of the event, but the first 2 mornings when I got seated for breakfast, the first morning I was there, so that Friday, there was a gentleman, his name is Oz Perkins. He just recently wrote and directed Longlegs, which is a psychological, I guess, horror thriller. I've read from a few critics that they've considered it to be as intense as The Silence of the Lambs, and it stars Nicolas Cage. And
so that's an example of the people that do complain that, so Longlegs with Nicolas Cage, the people that complain that everything's a sequel and everything's a reboot. Well, that's not.
Nope.
And so, but it was third that weekend because everyone went to sequel to whatever, Despicable Me 4 or whatever the weekend that came out. And so, but it still did well and respectfully, but you can't fault the Prodcos for making what people want to see. And so Aliens and Romulus, when we're filming this, they were number 1 over the weekend. Well, that's whatever, Alien number 7, but that's what people went to, and it did $108 million in 2 days. And so, of course, that's your job, is to make money.
Yes.
and but Longlegs is an example of where you can still, like, there's a sweet spot there where you can do something new. There's already Longlegs 2 in the works. And so, and that's the other thing. If it does well, you want to do another one.
Sure.
Like, no one has a problem with Aliens 2. Well, one guy online had a problem with Aliens 2, but most people don't have a problem with Aliens 2. And
they have a problem with Alien 3.
And Alien Resurrection. Yep.
And it's all about the quality. It's doing good work. And
for now, like I said, I feel like they're slowly but surely growing on you, Emily. And with the recent sequels of Scream 5 and Scream 6, now when they did Scream 5 2 years ago, they just called it Scream. They considered it to be a requel. And I felt, I would have to say those 2 entries are my least favorite in the franchise, pun intended. But they just, in my opinion, they just don't capture what the late Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson did with technically the first 2, and then they teamed up together for the 4th one. For the 3rd one, Kevin, I think, was tied up with a different project at the time. He had done a draft of the script, but they hired another writer, and so he had, I'm wanting to say, kind of done his own thing, and it was okay. Not my personal favorite, but I still consider the 3rd entry in the Scream franchise to be better than entries 5 and 6. But now that Scream 7 is in the works and they're getting Neve Campbell back and Courtney Cox, I think this one is going to be going back to the original roots of the first 2, and they're getting Kevin Williamson to direct, which is the first time he's done this for this franchise, and it'll be his 2nd or 3rd film he's ever directed. I think the last one he did was Teaching Mrs. Tingle in 1999, so 25 years.
Wow. So, sometimes you can tell, like, okay, there's some passion behind this. There's some love for the original material, and that's always good.
Definitely.
Passion for the dollars, for the
Passion for the dollars.
filled passion for the filled seats in the theater is the passion that the decisions are made on. You know how many specs sold last year? 11. And that is the 11 is low, but the year before it was 16. It hasn't been over 100 in 20 years, and even 20 to 25 years ago, or 20 to 30 years ago, it hasn't been over 150. And there were years in between. Let's say 18 years ago, it might have been only 40 or only 30. That's just normal. That's the business, and the business is, this is a guy that can meet deadlines, and this is a guy that his storytelling, because we're competing against people who are unemployed due to the great contraction in Hollywood right now, as less product is getting made. And so you're going to go with someone that you know that can meet deadlines, and so that's the job is, well, you hit these 2 deadlines on these little projects we gave you. Here, take a swipe at this one.
Mm.
And so your spec is your calling card, and so you got asked for a spec since you've been home from the
festival. Yep,
conference.
you're right.
And so that's your calling card. And if I had a crystal ball, which first of all I don't believe in the power of a crystal ball, but the point of asking for that is, does this guy have the chops to rework this other thing that I have, where what reminded me of this is when you said they hired someone else to rewrite it. That's the job. People get rewritten all the time.
They do.
And your first job will be to rewrite somebody else's little thing, and then your next job will be to rewrite somebody else's bigger thing, because you did all the things and you took all the notes and you hit all the deadlines on the little thing.
Yeah, now that I think back on it, there was one woman I met, but I mean, this woman's been busting her butt for a while, and she kind of went more of the documentary series route. And I remember this representative I met from Tubi, super nice guy. She had gotten a chance to meet with him as well, and apparently he was all over it and said, this is exactly what we're looking for. And apparently, from what she had told me, it sounded like she had a deal or 2 in the works before the weekend was even over. I guess a way to think about it, it's kind of like you're auditioning for anything else, whether it's a movie, a television show, and you've got all the actors, or in this case, all the writers, and you just make conversations with other writers around you and find out where they're from, what they're doing, what projects they're working on. And yeah, she was one of those conversations I had, and seemed to be on the ball every step of the way.
Emily, what burning question do you have on your mind?
Well, I'm thinking about like what you said about only like 11 scripts being sold. Just made me really sad.
Yeah.
But it made me.
The thing that I'll let you finish your thought in a second.
Yeah.
But the thing that people are shocked by, that it's public knowledge. Like all those numbers are out there of the spec scripts that sold. But 680 films were made last year.
Yeah.
And so now this is me guessing a percent. 1 out of 6 of those were, small productions in Ireland, or small, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or small productions in Canada, where those aren't counted in the 11.
Right.
But
Yeah.
still, there were 80,000 scripts registered with the WGA last year, and so it means 100,000 were written, because there's probably 20% that weren't registered, just people that wrote them and never registered them. So 600 out of 80,000, that's the same as 11 for 5 studios, right? It's still a minute number, because that's not the job. The job is rewriting and polishing and reworking and things like that. All right, finish your question, Emily.
So, well, that wasn't really a question, but it made me think about, so when we were at the film festival in Gatlinburg.
Yeah.
we Jon Meyers shared how he had turned one of his scripts into a fiction podcast.
Right.
And it's so I'm thinking my thoughts are all over the place, but I'm just thinking like as an author of books, like if a book doesn't get published, it can still be read, and a script can still be read. But I just loved the idea of I can still do something with the screenplay that I have. I can turn it into a fiction podcast because those are really popular, especially things like horror and suspense, right? And I don't know. I find that like I think that's a really cool thing to do.
Well, one of the two that I'm not allowed to talk about, one of the two that I just sold, they're both original to the producers. I mean, they're original, but the story was given, like the parameters of the story on both of them were given to me by the producer, and then
Mm-hmm.
I just had leeway to do what I wanted with them, and but they're both new. But those wouldn't ever, because they're smaller and it's for a specific purpose. Those aren't going to get counted in that 11 number either. But
No,
it's
no.
still a paycheck. So
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point. It doesn't mean that new screenwriters aren't being brought into the business. It's just not being included in that very specific number. So on that, I'm curious for our writers or our listeners who are screenwriters, what encouragement would either of you give to them in this process?
Jon, you want to start?
Well, so right now there's this wave of negativity in the industry, and I am not part of that wave. There's a reality that so the market is bigger than it was, right, because of streaming. But in the last 2 years, streamers are making 40% less content, right? But if you never sold anything, how does that affect you? like, like your chances were 1 in a million, and now your chances are 1 in 2 million. And so, what's the difference? And so, it's not a reason to not have your calling card out there, and your script is your calling card. And then that's still more like if you don't look down on streamers, as some people do, but I certainly don't. If you don't look down on them, it's still a bigger market than there was pre-streaming. And so so that's my positive look on it. What does Austin have to say?
That was pretty insightful. I'm not as familiar with some of the streaming stuff, so thank you for that tidbit. But I was going to say, just from writers' encouragement, even if it's a bad page, a bad draft of something, I would encourage our viewers who are screenwriters to keep everything you've ever written, because I feel like there's going to be a time when you go back and reflect on that and think, well, I didn't see importance with it then, but now there could be a character name or something in the plot that could help carry your now story that you're writing to that next level. So always save drafts of anything, whether they're good or bad. And I always like to take the time to find unique character names, and especially with last names. So I spend a good amount of time, interestingly, on the Social Security website, because you can actually go in specifically and target a certain decade or a certain year for that matter, and find names that were common for that year, for that decade. And depending on the age of the character that you're wanting to write, as well as gender, that gives you up to about 1,000 options if you know how to break it down correctly and find the specifics on there, which if you need advice on that, let me know and I'll walk you through that process. But that for me has been, thank you. That for me has been really helpful. So I guess to give you an example, if I'm writing, so we'll use Thicker Than Water, for instance. So when I was looking at character names for the mom character, generationally speaking, I'm not going to choose Ashley or Brittany, because that was more our age group. So to have a mom with that name would be like, no, that doesn't seem like the right fit. So thankfully there were about 1,000 options to choose from, and I found one that was about the right time frame and popularity and commonness. I don't even know if that's a word, but
it works.
Yeah, it works. Okay, we just invented a new word. Yay.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And that was really helpful, and I feel like it helps make the story that much more relatable as well.
Ah, that's good. Do I have time for one more question?
Yes.
Please.
Okay.
What?
So, my last question is, I know that you're a very busy person. Obviously, you are speaking to us from inside your car, so
Out in the wild.
out in the wild. So what I wanted to ask you is, how do you, so you're doing all these things that we just talked about, but you're also working full time, and I think you have more than one job. Is that correct?
Yes. So currently not doing life insurance at the moment. The company that I
Oh, okay.
was with, my boss sold her book of business to a different agency, and it's located outside of Hermitage. So I decided not to go with that. But my
Gotcha.
license is still active, so we'll see. But yeah, currently I'm down to 2 at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how are you doing? How are you doing all of those things and working on your career?
Yeah.
Your writing career.
So I guess fun fact, I would consider Jon and Emily to be harder workers than me, and that's not being biased, I promise. But but a lot of these I actually wrote in my 20s when I felt that I had a lot more free time, and I thought, yeah, let's just go ahead and crank these out. And yeah, so I'm finding myself now kind of revisiting those 8 that I'd written before and going back and saying, okay, how do we make this better? How do we make this a little bit more relevant to the year and time that we're living in now? But I've also started on a few other scripts as well, mainly thriller. And sadly, I haven't finished those yet because I keep gravitating towards the ones that I already finished. And I'm finding new ways to develop that story more and go back and see what I didn't spend as much time doing, and now making the time to go back and do that. And the answer sounds a little repetitive, but yeah, it's now. I took a break for a few years. When I hit probably about 25, 26, I realized, okay, I've written enough, and then really had to start working. Didn't put writing completely on the back burner, but I did not have any creativity for a while, in my opinion. I felt it was recharging in a sense. And then after, I'd say probably about 3 years ago, we were coming out of lockdown and mandates and all of that. And I thought, you know what? I think now is a good time to really get this going again, and let's revitalize that creative spirit, that energy, and let's get it out there. And that's when I started revisiting scripts and also getting back to networking again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I
relate to that. Yeah. And I relate to that of like going back and revising things that you wrote before and trying to revitalize them. I've got a novel that I've been wanting to do that with, but you learn so much over time that it's like sometimes you look back at your older work and you're like, oh no, I could make this better.
1000%.
Yeah.
You know when it's done, when the deadline, like it's not done until the deadline.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then it's too late and it's done.
Yep.
All right. Do you have a call to action for us?
Oh, you put me on.
Yes, I do, Jon Meyers and Emily Brooks.
Yes,
you can take a minute to think about it.
I'll leave you with this. This is something I read. I wish I came up with this myself, but it has been very profound in screenwriting as well as daily life. And it was a quote that said, never look at the words fail, end, or no from a negative perspective, because fail means first attempt in learning. No means next opportunity, right? That's been our biggest one for sure. And then end stands for effort never dies.
Wow.
John's
got
goosebumps. Yeah.
He gets goosebumps a lot on this show.
I have a whole new 3 new entries into my lexicon now.
Good.
Yeah,
good.
we have, because he has life tenets, and when you said that, it's like, did Jon Meyers write this?
I knew the middle one. I didn't know the first 2.
That's really good.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
Oh, Emily, John, thank you.
You just can't wait to get out of the car and go back out into the wild.
I know.
That's what. Tell the truth.
These headphones will be coming out, and yeah, I'm gonna sprint out of here.
And then tomorrow, Emily will, or not later today, Emily will see him walking down the road.
Yes.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Austin.
Thank you, John. Emily, thanks as
Thank
always.
you.
See y'all.
See ya.
And we're back, and Jon Meyers just couldn't stand wearing anything but a black shirt. So he
And
had
I really did get out of my bubble and buy a new shirt. Look, here's the new shirt I bought. Look, it's similar to the other one.
What?
It's true. Guess how much this one cost? Before and after price.
$10.
You're right. It was $69.99 on sale for $9.99. Very good.
Nice.
So that one will be making its debut in Oklahoma City, and then I'm done. Buy one shirt a year every year. All right.
Great.
So Austin said all the things about the thing.
He did, and I had like so many questions and stuff. Because again, I'm not on the screenwriting side, right? So like all of this is new to me. And so I was wondering, because I feel like we didn't get to. There are some things that I'm still curious about, like how do you know which conferences to go to, or how do you pitch?
I think the pertinent question is, you want to go where the people that have the job that you want are, right? And so you want to go where the people are that have the job that you want. And so where working screenwriters are, and it doesn't, because Hollywood's in flux right now. First of all, there is no Hollywood. There's 2,300 Prodcos, production companies, and there's 5 big studios. All of them are, but one are owned by Disney now. I'm exaggerating, but yeah. And so those are the people, like, oh, I sold something to Netflix. No, you didn't. You sold something to XYZ Prodco that sold it to Netflix. And so there's exceptions, but the 9 times out of 10 you're dealing with a production company. So you want to go where those people are, and those people go, I don't want to say there aren't any conferences, but they go to film festivals, and and they go to, so like I'm going to use Austin Film Festival as an example, because that's the Writers Film Festival, where sometimes it's all documentaries, or Toronto, I think it's called TIFF. That's where a lot of deals get made. Deals get made at Austin. Sundance is a little artsier, but deals get made there. But those are all film festivals. And even like, yeah, even like I have friends at both of them, but I always confuse ICFF and ICVM, and they're both International Christian Video and Motion Pictures and International Christian Film Festival. They're unrelated to each other, and I think I've been judged for both of them. So they have something that's closer to like a writers' conference, but it's still there's still film festivals where they show the films as well. But there's sessions, like when we're going to WriterCon in Oklahoma City, there's still sessions there while we're filming this. Killer Nashville's happening. That's kind of like a conference, in that there's panels and speakers, but because it's film, they actually show the film. Like they actually show films. And so like the biggest one I've been to was Edinburgh in Scotland, and I met a ton of people there where I wound up like bringing them back home to the States, and they came and spoke at my college and stuff. And it was just from meeting them there. And then so I'll use I don't have permission to use their name, but I'll use them as an example of, so people flew in from London. They spoke at our college, and I had to pick them up at the airport. And then we got stuck in a 5-hour traffic jam on the way back to the airport, after they had spent 3 days seeing the sights here and everything. And that was some of the most impactful 5 hours of my life
Mm.
because I'm trapped in a car in Nashville traffic and with 2 director writers, and I got to pick their brain for 5 hours.
Yeah.
But why? Because I went and hung out where those kind of people hung out. And in Oklahoma City, I'll have a car, you'll have a car there.
Mhm.
If someone needs a ride to the airport, I'm giving them a ride because you don't
Yeah.
know, you just go help people and you don't know what you're gonna learn. I'll just say who they were, Uva and Matus. They're Polish and Swedish, but I met them in Edinburgh. Like, Uva was reading this book about you always start at the midpoint, right? And he's been a professional filmmaker for at that point 20 years maybe, and he had never considered starting writing in the middle, and he found it fascinating. And so probably an hour of that 5-hour conversation was about what does it look like if you start in the middle, and and then probably half hour of it was about birds because we had different birds than they have, and but then like we still talk now, and that's been
Yeah.
years. And so those are the kind of connections you make at a festival / conference. There's the
think that's
introduction to ask your question.
Yeah, sure. So I think that's really interesting because when I think about the Tennessee Writing Conference, which we've talked about now in 2 episodes, the one on pitching to agents and then the one with Misty, while I think that conference had like it reaped much fruit and it was great, what I felt like was missing was that mingling opportunity, because the way that it was set up is you had like these pitch meetings with the agents and then you never saw those agents again during the day. There wasn't really a good space for mingling. There weren't extra opportunities, whereas I feel like the conference in Oklahoma City that we're going to has so many of those things, and they have an app where you can connect to people, and I think that is they're opening the doors more for that, exactly what you're talking about, which is hallway conversations. And it's like when we talk about elevator pitches, they literally are meant, like they're called elevator pitches because they're things that you can say in an elevator when you randomly, come across somebody. You can use them in those pitch meetings, but also a lot of it is that personal interaction that you're having with somebody. And you don't just go up to an agent and go, "Hey, I've got a story. Here's my pitch." It's like what you said, "Let me take you to the airport," or "Hey, what are you working on? Let's connect over something."
Yeah, I watched someone last night while I was waiting for our book to be released. I watched someone that does what we do, who I won't name, and they were saying the light version of what we're saying. They were saying you're friendly until the right moment, and then you pounce on them and force your script on them or whatever. No.
Oh, gee, that sounds like that sounds predatory.
Yeah, and no, you're just nice and helpful. And if nothing ever comes of it, you're not doing it to you're not doing it to open a door. You're doing it because you're nice. And
Yeah.
then things will come of it, but that's not why you did it.
I think you come into those social interactions with, and it sounded like, and this is just the way Austin is, like whenever you're talking to Austin, he's so interested in you as a person. I think that that's a really good model of come to these social interactions with genuine curiosity about people and what they're doing. Like notice when Austin was talking about his interactions with people, he was saying this person does this thing and this thing and this thing because he was asking them questions. That. It was less about him and more about them. And I think that's a good model.
Yeah, I didn't get the impression that Austin was a user.
No,
Like,
not at
I didn't get
all.
the impression that he was using people. So yeah, I don't know if that answered all of your question, but
Well, maybe we need to have just another episode on all this in general, because it's really fascinating to me, and we don't have time to get into everything
it is
today.
the actual business happens in the hallway and in the
Yeah.
parking lot, and or they'll call you. I mean, that's what happened with me recently. They'll call you when Uva and Matus came here. They're like, Wake Forest is paying for us to come to the United States. Can you get us come to speak at your college, so we're not coming all the way over there for one thing.
Yeah.
And that was a couple years later. And
Yeah.
so those calls came because I was nice to them in person, and I was genuine because I really loved their film, and I got just like I got to I've gotten to interview some of my heroes on my blog because I fawned all over them because I was a super fanboy, and they remembered me, but it was genuine. It wasn't fake.
Yeah.
All right.
That's good.
Did that help?
Yeah, a lot.
Okay. I feel so much better now that I'm dressed properly.
So before the next section,
Yes.
I have to leave the room.
Okay.
And I will come back.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to perform my greatest hits. Midnight and the kitties are sleeping. There you go. Who doesn't love Cats? So I'm a big defender of the film Cats, and here's why. After I yes, I'm talking about a 5-year-old movie. After I came out of Cats in my undisclosed location, an impromptu conversation came up, and are you bringing a cat in? A bird. Oh, we have I'm talking about cats. I got to finish my story now. We're talking about cats, and then a bird came in. Is this George or the other one?
This is Kaiju.
Kaiju. Hey, does Kaiju know its name? His name? Her name?
No. In fact, we don't get him. He hasn't been in this room, so he actually might fly away and explore, which is fine. So this is Kaiju. He is a ringneck dove. And my segue with the owls. Oh, hey, Jon Meyers.
Now I left him in the middle. You're gonna have to cut out the whole beginning of my cat story because I've left him in the middle of my cat story.
Finish your cat story.
Kaiju's looking at me. Kaiju. So at the end, an impromptu discussion group happened in the parking lot of 8 total strangers. 2 didn't like it and 6 did. But what movie has that ever happened that people just started this because it was so, I don't know, hated at the time when it came out? And I was in the 6 that liked it team. The 2 people that didn't like it, they were like, it was exactly like the play. I don't see the point. Well, how can you not, if you loved the play and you saw the play 3 times on Broadway, which this couple did, how can you not like the film when you literally said it was exactly like the play? There you go. That's the end of my story. Kaiju.
He's a little anxious. And he's now on my laptop. Hey, Jon Meyers.
Yes.
This is Kaiju. He's a ringneck dove. And my segue with the owls is that
Kaiju's laughing at me.
So ringneck doves are also called laughing doves.
Oh, I didn't know.
For that reason. The males, the females make that sound, but it's a bit quieter. They don't do it as often. But actually, George is cooing in the background because he's nervous about where Kaiju is. But a lot of people mistake dove sounds with owls because they do a coo. The doves that are in the wild are mourning doves. They're very similar in size and color and in general, just very similar. But do you know anything about? I don't know how to ask this Hey Jon Meyers question. Do you know anything about ringneck doves, Jon Meyers?
I know there's one on your hand. So is Kaiju actually literally looking at the screen?
No, I don't think so. Stop hitting buttons.
Kaiju's doing his own show. We're guests on the Kaiju show.
I imagine you know something about
carrier pigeons. That's all I know.
Well, I imagine you've read some of the Old Testament.
Oh, doves. Yeah, I know Noah's Ark dove stuff.
So a lot of times we imagine a white dove. when we're reading those stories, but this is actually more what they would have looked like. Now, he's a
Oh.
dilute, so he's not quite the natural color. My other dove, Sierra, is more of the natural color, but even she's a little bit lighter than what they would be. But they would have these rings on them. So these are actually like the doves. They are their original. Ringneck doves originated in Africa. And so whenever there's mention of them in the Bible, that's usually what they look like. Another interesting thing, so this is Kaiju, and he's our third dove. He is the baby of my other doves, George and Sierra.
Oh.
And if you're wondering why those names, we had another dove named Mary, and it was George and Mary after It's a Wonderful Life, but she passed away. And so now we have Sierra, and she looks a lot like Kaiju, but darker. And when they laid an egg, I forgot to take it out of the cage. So usually I take him out of the cage because there he goes. That is the worst place you could have landed. That's not going to work, buddy. Go fly on the fan. There you go.
Wait, I
Wait.
thought the worst place was going to be the ceiling fan, and you told it to
No.
go onto the ceiling fan.
They love the ceiling fan. It's their favorite place to be.
Oh.
So he's fine. He'll be fine up there. So what was I saying? Oh yeah. So what happens is every month, this is just me talking about my doves for Hey Jon Meyers. You're welcome. Because George featured in a video that I made, and Jon Meyers said that my doves need to be on the show.
Yeah, they wanted to buy our book.
But there's some interesting facts in here.
Okay.
So we have to remove, this is going to sound really mean and sad, but we have to remove and replace their eggs every month. So Sierra lays 2 eggs a month, and we replace them with glass eggs because it discourages her from laying continually, because if she did that, it would deplete her calcium levels and she would be very sick. Well,
Okay.
one month we forgot to remove one of the eggs for a couple of days, and they incubate super fast.
Okay.
So chickens, I want to think they incubate for about 21 days. Doves incubate in like 14 days. Like they hatch in 14 days. So if you leave the egg in the nest for even a couple of days, you've got a heartbeat. And when I looked at the egg, so if you want to look, they're very transparent in light. So if you go into a dark room and shine a light on them, you can see inside. And I saw Kaiju's little heartbeat, and I was like, okay, you get to live. And so we left him in there. But when we were waiting for him to hatch, I was like, I wonder if it's going to be a boy or a girl. Guess how I could tell when he was born if he was a boy or a girl?
I don't know if I'm old enough to be in this conversation.
I will say it has nothing to do with what you're thinking about.
You don't know what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that it has to do with whether they play with Barbies or trucks.
Oh no.
Hot Wheels.
Oh no. So I did the test. I gave him a Hot Wheel or a Barbie and saw which one he liked better.
Yeah. That's so wrong. We don't live in the 1950s.
Wow. Wow, I didn't know we were that kind of podcast. Anyway, so George is a white dove.
Okay.
Sierra is a dove, is a tan brownish color. And what I learned is if these two are paired, for whatever reason, the girls would be white like the dad, and the boys would be brown like the mom.
Oh.
And so I knew as soon as he was born that he was a boy because he was brown like his mom instead of white like his dad.
I wonder if that's true with any other species.
They're interesting because, I mean, you would think it would be the opposite, right? That it's like, oh, all males are white and all females are brown. But that's just not the case because these are bred to be different colors. Like they're not white in the wild. So for whatever reason, the male passes down. The way that the genes work is the female is the one passing down to the male, and the male is the one passing down to the female. I don't know why.
Oh.
The other way you can tell is when they get older, the males will coo a lot more, and when they do, they have like kind of a bulging throat, and so that's how I could tell that Kaiju was a boy. And pretty soon he's gonna have a girlfriend.
What?
Because We had to take him out of the cage with the parents, and so he's just in a cage by himself, and it's really sad. And so we're gonna get him a girlfriend. Then we're gonna have way too many doves. So if anybody wants a dove, Kaiju will be yours.
Where do you get where are you getting another dove? Kaiju liked that news. Responded.
There are dove breeders that we're gonna have to get one from. He's cooing now. Why are you showing me a rubber duck?
I thought it was the bird issue or the bird episode.
Oh yeah, it is the bird. It's the second bird episode.
What other bird do I have around here? I don't.
That's pretty much all. I just wanted to share the story of Kaiju and how. Do you want to know why his name is Kaiju?
Because it's like the Godzilla, right?
Yeah. Because these doves
steps on cities.
These doves have no fear. Like George will coo at a full-grown person from the ground and peck at their feet, and he just has no fear.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want Kaiju to come back down onto the show. It's making me nervous that he's up on the ceiling fan.
Well, I would have to stand on my chair to get him. So
don't do that. That would make me nervous too. What if someone comes in and turns on the ceiling fan?
Nobody's gonna do that.
What if the maintenance guy comes in, like on the Sarah Weigel episode?
All right. Well,
I love this part of the show.
Oh, good. Do I need to get him out of here before we play the final act? Because he's going to be doing that the whole time.
Nah.
He's really not stopping.
That's fine. It adds.
He and George love to go in sync as well, where they're both cooing like that at the exact same time.
Does it blend like a harmony, or is it disappear?
They'll usually be in the same tone. George is actually cooing back right now.
Oh. I can't tell the difference.
Well,
all right.
It's time for
yes,
the final act.
Yes. Today, I actually came up with a set of, this is the simplest game ever. I actually came up with a set of really complicated rules as homage to the, okay, start with the number that you think you can do in a minute.
Okay,
and
that
then
game was
how
hard.
many you really do, and then subtract the other number from the other number, carry it forward. So I could still do that, but this is going to be, so here's the prize you're playing for.
Ooh. A stand for paint minis.
So, interesting that you said that. I didn't. So this came from TJ Maxx, and I didn't remember what it was sold for. It was in the kitchen department, and so I Googled it, and it was sold as a spice organizer for your spices. However, that is not the purpose of why I'm giving you this if you win, because, you know, Emily, you look like a practitioner of Underconsumption Core. That seems to be your vibe. You're an Underconsumption Core kind of vibey person, right?
I have no idea what that is.
Underconsumption Core is when you repurpose things.
Oh yeah.
You go to thrift stores and you take something in its original purpose, such as this as a spice rack, which I have another purpose for it, which will be at the end of the game, and then repurpose it. So an example, you like to give examples when you play these games, is like people use milk crates to put their vinyl in, right? And so it was made to carry milk jugs, because we all know we have milk jugs, but really now people use them to repurpose them and put their vinyl records in them. So the game is, you have 60 seconds. Let me get my clock ready to find 3 things in your house to scavenger hunt that was manufactured for one thing, but it is currently serving another purpose right now. And you can't use milk crate because I already said that. How many will you find And first of all, tell me how many you think you'll find in 60 seconds.
60 seconds?
Yes, you can go anywhere in the house. You can go out the
Oh my
garage.
gosh. John's working in the other room where all the stuff would be.
Oh well, if you get a ringer to help you, you know what? I should have saved the second half of the cat story for while you were out looking for your stuff.
Okay, I'm gonna find 3 things.
Wait, and I don't have the clock ready yet. Hold on.
Oh, okay.
So you think you're gonna find 3?
I
It's gonna
think
take you
I can
20
find
seconds.
3.
All right. Seconds on the clock. All right, now I'm ready. Ready?
Ready.
3, 2, 1, go. And she's off. Here, the timer is up there, and don't show them all to us during this like you did with the book scavenger hunt with me. Like you have to show them all at the end, even if you can still hear me. The bird got quiet too. Oh no! I hope she's not repurposing kaiju. We are now at 35 seconds. What other 5-year-old movie could I tell you about? But seriously, listeners, viewers at home, when was the last time? Here, I'm giving you a second call to action. Tell us when the last time was you went to a movie and just an impromptu discussion group came up you have 15 seconds left, Emily. An impromptu discussion group came up in the parking lot afterwards. It like never happens. Like maybe with your friends, but not with total strangers. That's the power of the movie Cats. And your time's up. There's the buzzing.
Is my time up?
Yep, you're now at -5 seconds. -7 seconds. A plant? All right. Did you find 3?
Yes, if
Okay.
they count, but you have to evaluate if they count.
So if they count, I don't know how we're gonna decide. Kaiju can decide. Then, so if they count, you get 3 points, right? If all 3 count, and then if you can guess the purpose of what I actually use this for, not spice racks. So, Mr. Overconsumption Core, if you can guess what I really use it for, then you can double those points. There you go. All right, what'd you find?
Okay. Well, one of them I found after the time was up.
Okay.
The first thing I found was this metal box of chocolates.
Okay.
What it originally was.
For chocolate, made for
but
the purpose
it
of
now
chocolate.
holds
Buttons.
colored pencils.
Oh, colored pencils. Perfect. See, you are an Underconsumption Core aficionado. You just didn't know it.
The other thing I found, I'm pretty sure this bag was holding holding bedding, I think. But now it's holding yarn, like a craft project.
But what was it originally holding?
I think it was holding bedding, but I'm not 100% sure.
I think that's valid. I think that counts. Good.
Oh, it says on the back. It says home textile. So it was some kind of...
Oh, maybe curtains? Maybe,
yeah. And then, I don't know if this one counts, but I had a... this plant was in this beautiful vase, and I'm not going to explain how the vase broke. I'm not going to point any fingers, but the vase broke, and so I had this other planter from a different plant that died, and so I don't know. I put this plant in it, but it's still But
it's still a planter.
It's still a plant.
Like you couldn't have found a coffee can or something. Quick, replant that plant in a shoe.
Okay, so another thing that I found though that I didn't share.
Oh, you get bonus time.
Well, I just didn't decide. Okay, so this one was this held photo albums, I think.
Oh.
It says photo albums on it.
Okay, and then now it
has unfinished craft projects.
Very good. I'll give you all 3 points, even though you had to use a bonus item.
This is the one that I had to. This is the one that I found after the time was up. This is a coffee mug that is now a pencil holder.
The most uncomfortable coffee mug ever.
Well, that's why I don't use it as a coffee mug.
It doesn't look like it would have very good mouthfeel. All right.
Hey, fans of the game Portal, you will know what this is.
Oh, okay. I don't know what that is.
It's the best video game ever.
I can't believe you didn't know what Underconsumption Core was.
Yeah, I've never heard of that, but I definitely I love repurposing things. I hate throwing things away because I hate waste. So,
Yeah. All right.
but what are you using that thing for?
Correct. You get one guess.
So I know people will use that for like holding makeup, or John uses those kinds of things all the time to hold paints. But what would Jon Meyers use it for?
Actually, there's 2 chances to get it right because I used to use it for something else, but it didn't
Oh,
work. It didn't work for that something else, and so now I use it for this other thing. So if you get either one of those,
can I ask questions?
yes.
What room do you keep it in?
The spare guest room.
Oh, okay. I'm going to guess you use it for the soaps and shampoos and stuff that you keep in the guest bedroom.
No, those would be in the bathroom where a normal person would keep them. I only have one bathroom.
My second guess then would be what's like small that you would put on something like that? Pictures.
Oh, like little picture frames?
Yeah.
That would be a good guess, but
Cards?
what kind of cards? The answer
Like
is no, but what kind of cards?
like displaying like Christmas cards or something?
Oh, no.
Okay. Well,
That's enough. My whole guest room is that color, by the way, that seafoam color. All right, ready? Here comes what it's used for.
how am I supposed to guess that? Jon Meyers is holding up this stand that has multicolored ducks on it, and all of them are reading from a book, and it looks like they're a choir.
It exactly. So the ducks have been repurposed too because they're really reading ducks.
Yeah, but
But when you
now
but now they look like they're choir ducks.
then they look like they're singing because all their mouths are open.
Exactly. They're singing like kaiju is. It's double repurposed Underconsumption Core. I used to use it. I thought it would make more room in the cabinets for like coffee cups, coffee mugs, but it didn't. It was too little. So now it turned into the choir stand for the ducks.
Look what I found inside of my coffee mug as well. This was a coin purse, but I'm actually using it to hold a USB.
You'll never look at the world the same again.
No, now I'm like, what else do I do?
The ceiling fan is repurposed
I
as a bird perch.
I use mugs everywhere. I put like makeup brushes in them, like all kinds of stuff. So
There you go.
that was good.
I knew you'd like that one.
I like it.
Guess what?
We
Couldn't have done it
couldn't have done it without you.
without you.